Well, hello, it's Claire Obermarck here with our next story in our series of Mountains, Rocks and Stones. Today I'm going to give you the story that preempts the game Rock, Paper, Scissors. You can find this story in the Grimm collection. It will be under The Fisherman and His Wife. There's lots of different versions of it around the world. I just know it as The Stone Cutter, and it's the Andrew Lang version, so you can find an Andrew Lang version of this as well. Once upon a time, there lived a stone cutter. Every day he went to the great rock in the side of the mountain, and he cut out slabs for gravestones and different sized stones for houses, bridges, and anything else required. He understood the kinds of stones needed for different purposes, and he was steady in character, steady as a stone himself, and because of this, he always had plenty of customers. His life was regulated and steady, and he was fixed and content. Now in the mountain where he retrieved his pieces there dwelt a spirit, a good spirit. It appeared to folk under different guises now and then when its mood suited, and it helped folk become rich and prosperous. But the stonecutter had never seen this spirit, and not only that, he didn't believe in it. When friends spoke of it around the fire, he'd place his tankard steadily on the table and say in a fixed tone, "No, there is no such creature of the mountain. If there was, surely I would have seen it by now, for I work at the mountain. Let's move on from fairy talk and old wives' tales." Now one day the stonecutter carried a piece to this house, a house of a very rich man, and there he saw fine things he'd never seen before, beautiful furniture, landscaped gardens, carved polished marble, finest design and architecture, and from that day on his work seemed to grow a bit harder. The stones grew heavier, the time working went slower, and he said to himself, if I was a rich man, I could sleep as long as I wanted in a big comfortable bed. How happy I'd be. All the finest things would be around me. And a voice answered him, "Your wish is heard. A rich man you shall be." The stonecutter looked around, but there was nobody there. He suddenly felt inclined to stop work early that day. He picked up his tools and he headed home. And upon arrival, he stood open-mouthed. His wooden hut was now a stately palace, and inside the most comfortable bed in the world awaited him. And he fell inside his new palace, beside himself with joy, and over one night's sleep forgot his old life entirely. Now the stonecutter wandered around his palace very happily, until one day, it was a very hot day in summer, and it was boiling hot, and not only that, he was bored. It was boiling hot and he was bored. Now he looked through the drawn window blinds, just as he saw a carriage passing by, and it was carrying a prince, and the prince was sheltered from the sun by a golden umbrella, held above him by two beautifully dressed servants. "Ah," said the stonecutter, "if I were a prince I could go in a carriage and have a beautiful golden umbrella held over me. I'd be happy." And the voice of the mountain spirit answered, "A prince you shall be." And a prince he was. The grand servants held the coveted golden umbrella over his head. But it still wasn't enough. The stonecutter looked about, noticing that no matter how his lawns were watered, the sun still scorched them. And no matter how he sheltered from the sun under his golden umbrella, his skin still became dry and wrinkled and burnt. "The sun is mightier than me," said the stonecutter. "If only I was the sun." And the mountain spirit answered, "Your wish is heard. The sun you'll be." And the sun he was. He burnt up all the grass in the fields, and he scorched the faces of the princes and paupers alike. And in a short time, he began to grow tired of his might once more, and discontent filled up his soul, and a passing cloud covered his face and hid the earth for a very short while. And at that point the stonecutter cried out, "Does the cloud hold my race captive?" It thinks itself mightier than I. Oh, if only I were a cloud. And a voice answered, your wish is heard, a cloud you shall be. And a cloud he was. He caught the sun's beams and he held them, and the earth grew green again and the flowers blossomed, but it was still empty. For weeks he poured rain until the rivers overflowed the banks and the crops stood in water. Towns and villages became destroyed. Only the great rock on the mountainside remained unmoved. And the cloud cried in wonder, is the rock mightier than I? Oh, if only I was the rock. And the spirit voice answered, your wish is heard, the rock you shall be. And the rock he became. And proudly at first he stood, because neither the heat of the sun or the force of the rain could move him. This is better than everything, he said to himself. But then one day he heard a strange noise at his feet, and when he looked down to see what it was, he saw a stone cutter driving tools into his very surface. And even while he looked, a funny trembling feeling ran all through him. And then a great block of him came off and fell on the ground, and he cried out, is this man of the earth mightier than me, a rock? Oh, if only I was a man. And the spirit answered, your wish is heard, a man once more you'll be. And a man he was. And he heard the voice of the mountain spirit no more. And the man became as a great stone once more. He married, and when he passed away at a ripe old age, his wife sang his lament. It is around this time of year I sing a song for you. For if I do not sing your song, my tears they fall anew. For you were once my love, my dear, you were once my beau, until the end of time, my dear, through rain and sun and snow. Around your face the angels danced and took you as their own. So now you sit up high and wait, silent as a stone. I can wait 1,000 years, my story does not change. I'll sing your song for all my time, until I see your face. It was a face I'll not forget, nor your voice so soft. Your patience and your gentle ways will never be forgot. For you were once my love, my dear, you were once my beau, until the end of time, my dear, through rain and sun and snow. Bye-bye.